Hey, what's going on, you guys? Hey, welcome back to another episode with Trek. Big shout out to every single person that is just now tapping in. Huge shout out to the chat. Major shout out to all the members, man. I appreciate you guys. If this is your first time here, what we like to do is take a look at the most interesting and creepy videos. Smash that like button for me if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already part of the iTrack fam, and let's jump right into it.
I need somebody way smarter than me to tell me what is happening in this video. Someone please tell me. My mom and I were hiking at a local trail next to the river, and we came across this rock that was floating in the air. It did this for probably 5 to 7 minutes while we were there. My mom actually grabbed the rock and rubbed it to see if anything was attached to it. Nothing was. And she put it down, and then it proceeded to float around like this again. So what is happening here?
At first glance, I was going to say maybe it's just some kind of thick spider web, right? But I don't know any spiders that have webs that are that thick that can hold up a rock like that and even have it dangling. I'm not quite sure, but if you know something I don't, definitely let me know in the comments.
Let me just ask you what you're hearing at work, both from leadership and your friends, your coworkers, the rank and file. What are the concerns and expectations?
So thanks for having me, Chris. So it's not fair that TSA officers are put in this situation, which seems like every couple months now because of the budget. TSA officers, we work in a high-stress job, and we're trained to work in a stressful environment. But to add to their stress, have them worrying about how they're going to get paid, pay their bills, feed their families, it isn't fair. Last year, TSA officers found almost 7,000 guns, right? And 94% were loaded. They have to be on top of their game.
Wait a minute, can you say that again? 7,000 guns, and how many were loaded?
Almost 7,000. 94% of them were, 94% were loaded.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to be on top of our game, right? And we don't need the
I like that very much.
Stress of missing pay. Yeah, right. So the risk of a possible security event gets higher and higher as this goes on because of the added stress, right? Like so the air traffic controllers aren't getting paid also. So you have the officers checking your bags for weapons, right? And the air traffic controllers all worried about when they're going to get paid. I wouldn't want to fly in that situation. I wouldn't want to fly if the pilot wasn't getting paid.
And when he puts it that way, they need to go ahead and pay these people. I mean, airport security should be a top priority. I don't know if I'm missing something, but yeah, they need to get that resolved as quickly as possible.
Aaron Lacey was wrongfully accused, and this needs more attention because now we have the video evidence to support it. Kyron Lacey was a star LSU wide receiver, but this man commits suicide because they made it look like he caused a chain reaction car crash that resulted in the death of a 78-year-old man, and he was about to get charged with homicide and hit and run that resulted in a death. Now they released footage of the car crash, and you can see that the car crash was here, and Kyron Lacey had a green Charger that pulled up behind the car crash. They're saying he was about 72 yards behind the crash. The crash happens here, and then Kyron Lacey pulls up behind it. The worst part of it all, take a look at this body cam footage. Police are telling people what to write. They're supposed to write what they saw, but they're suggesting them to write that they dodged the Charger.
Don't worry about any of that. Just right here, if you could, I'll just have you write exactly what you saw. Just make sure to include, where you were.
I don't even know what the name of that highway.
It's Highway 20. Highway 20. That you just.
All right, maybe my wife gonna figure out right quick.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that Charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that Charger. That's.
I ain't scared my car, but I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what was happening. That's how she called that wreck. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side, and that's not in it.
So, but the Charger was coming right at you, correct? Right. And that's why you had to slam on your brake, head on with you. So yeah, just make sure you include that, and that's very important because we're trying to locate this Charger right now. So just include that in the statement.
Someone just recorded one of the Lockheed Martin underground facility sites. This is incredible.
Wow, it's hard to tell what that thing is at this distance. especially through all the heat haze, but it looks pretty crazy. They got it rotating on that pylon pretty fast too.
Now, what are we looking at here? We can be looking at anything, really. But it looks like it's some type of UAP, maybe? I don't know. I'm not really sure. You can see the pylon holding the object right underneath it. So these right here could be many things, right? But it looks like it could be some type of UAP, maybe, or some type of new drone device, right? Is that the drones that everybody is seeing all over the world, in Europe, New Jersey, all over the place? Is that what it is? Is this some type of new machine that maybe they're testing, right? I don't know. But this guy went out to the desert. He filmed the whole thing. And this is amazing, right? Now, this underground facility could be this one on this photograph right here. And this picture was released by Dr. Stephen Greer a while ago. So, what is really going on here, right? You can see this trailer backing up into these underground facilities and picking this thing up. And I don't know, they're taking it somewheres, right? You can see it in the back of the trailer. They're moving it around. What is really going on here? This guy got the balls to go out there and record this whole thing. This is amazing, amazing footage. This is data that we can use, right? And we can literally, study it, right? Because a lot of these whistleblowers in Congress, they're not even showing these kind of things. But this random guy can just go out in the desert and just film the whole thing. Do you think this is some type of UAP they're working on it? Or maybe it's just one of those drones that everybody is watching all over the world, right? New Jersey, Europe, all over the place. What is it, right? Let me know in the comment section. What do you think about this? This is amazing.
And it is interesting because it takes a man having to sneak into these places for us to even be able to see it. So that's pretty wild in itself.
Did you know that Michael Jackson was a follower of the Satanist Aleister Crowley? If you look closely at Michael Jackson's arm right here, you see the number 777. Michael Jackson followed the 777 book written by Aleister Crowley. The 777 book was used to summon and channel Nephilim spirits through ancient magic. Now, this gets even crazier. There's an article called I Make Myself Invisible by Aleister Crowley where he says he has a hall of mirrors and he contacts spirits this way. Why did Michael Jackson go and buy a room full of mirrors? This is Michael Jackson word for word in Psychic News in 1987. He says, I have one secret room with a moving hall and mirrors. That's where I talk to Liberace. He is the voice I hear in there. I feel his presence so very close to me. Liberace is like my guardian angel. He's even given me permission to record his theme song, I'll Be Seeing You. Liberace was a public, flamboyant. Why would you want to feel his presence and summon him? It doesn't make any sense.
Morbid Facts, Part 753. Behind the wild persona of Tiger King's Joe Exotic was a trail of cruelty even darker than what viewers saw on Netflix. Former employees recalled how he casually shot animals that displeased him, once killing a woman's horse within minutes of her donation and laughing about it before feeding its body to his tigers. He was accused of shooting older tigers in the head to make room for new cubs, animals that drew much bigger crowds and more profit. His zoo's kitchen was piled high with expired Walmart meat, which not only fed the big cats, but was allegedly also cooked into pizzas for paying customers. A mysterious fire that destroyed his studio wiped out days of footage that insiders claimed showed him brutally executing animals on camera. Even his music career was a lie. He hired musicians to record songs and then lip-synced over them in his bizarre videos. As his empire collapsed, investigators uncovered a murder-for-hire plot against his rival Carol Baskin and evidence of him killing at least 5 of his own tigers. For all the flamboyance, costumes, and chaos, the legacy Joe Exotic left behind is one of exploitation, cruelty, and death. A man who apparently turned suffering into a spectacle and ended up caged himself.
Hey, now that Joe Exotic is a wild man. If you've never seen his documentary on Netflix, I believe it's called Tiger King. It is wild. Definitely should check it out.
This blue stuff is actually blood, and it's probably saved your life. It's from a horseshoe crab, and scientists have been using it for decades because it has special immune cells that clot almost immediately when they're exposed to toxic bacteria, which makes it really effective at testing human vaccines for contamination. If a clot shows up in testing, that means that it's not safe. life, and scientists destroy that batch so it never ends up in you. But this has nothing to do with it being blue, which has to do with the copper in their blood versus the iron in ours. But the problem here is collecting horseshoe crab blood isn't great for the horseshoe crab, which is why it's so cool that we've now created a synthetic version. It works exactly like horseshoe crab blood, but without needing any real blood. For more optimistic science and tech stories, follow along.
I think the one thing I regret is I didn't get concerned with safety sooner. I think AI is going to happen, and a few people refusing to develop it wouldn't stop it happening. There's too many payoffs from it in healthcare, education, and basically in any industry where you want to predict something. So it was going to happen anyway. But I wish I'd thought earlier about safety, particularly this existential threat of how are we going to prevent it wanting to take over.
How old are you?
102.
What does it feel like to be 102?
I feel blessed to live this long and to be able to talk and be able to walk and to observe and tell you about the things that were in my life before 102. I've gone through so many things in life.
When you wake up every day and you look in the mirror and you realize you are 102 years old, do you feel that?
No, I don't feel any way different because I feel me, and I don't know what it is to tell you I feel me. This is Geraldine.
Where do you think most people go wrong as they get older to not be able to get to the point you're at and be the way you are and feel that way?
I think they do not think of other people as they're growing. I think the most important thing is to consider other people as you consider yourself. And life is what you make it. You make it hard, it's going to end up hard. But if you try and make it soft, if you try to help others, it's not only soft for them, it's soft for you. I have tried to help, and that's, I believe, is why God has given me the ability to live this long.
Small talk requires your brain to run 7 simultaneous processes while generating 0 dopamine reward, which is why it feels like physical torture. Your prefrontal cortex is tracking appropriate facial expressions, vocal tone modulation, conversational timing, topic relevance, body language, eye contact intervals, and suppressing your actual thoughts, all while your reward system sits there completely silent because surface-level chit-chat offers 0 intellectual stimulation. For neurotypical brains, social interaction itself triggers dopamine. For ADHD and autistic brains, you only get dopamine from novel, complex, or meaningful information. So you're burning massive cognitive resources to perform this 7-layer protocol while your brain is literally screaming, "Why are we doing this? There's no reward." It's like being forced to solve calculus problems while someone describes their commute, except you don't get paid. The Neural Reset Protocol helps you stop spending 80% of your energy on masking so conversations don't feel like labor. Tap the link in my profile.
Now, I like how he broke down why small talk can be excruciatingly painful. Because there's no reward, there's no payoff. What are we talking about? What needs to be said? If there's nothing that needs to be said, why are we talking?
I don't think y'all realize how insane Elon Musk's plan is. Okay, the Starship is the world's largest rocket, right? But it's also one of the cheapest rockets. It's only going to cost about $10 million to make. The SLS, or NASA's rocket, costs about $50 billion to make and about $4 billion to launch every time, and it's not reusable. Now, the 33 Raptor engines that power the Starship are tiny, but they're extremely powerful for their size. Each Raptor rocket is about the same power as the space shuttle rockets. And SpaceX is building one of these Raptor engines every day.
These are all Raptor 2s.
Okay, there's obviously a bigger plane here, okay? And the bigger plan is Mars. SpaceX is preparing to build one Starship every 3 days. Over 10 years, that's 1,000 Starships they want to build.
Bad Bunny basically told people on Saturday Night Live that if you can't understand him or his music, you have 4 months to learn his language until the Super Bowl. This guy's a plant. I'm sorry, but it just feels like there's an agenda being pushed here. I mean, just take a look at the record label he's under. It was literally founded by someone who worked for the Venezuelan government. In fact, he was the vice minister to former President Hugo Chavez. Now, a Puerto Rican politician even claimed that the Biden administration asked the FBI to investigate it for being a potential risk to our national security, and I'll tell you why. Rafael Jimenez Dan is his name, and he still owns 60% of the publishing side of Remont Más Entertainment, the record label. And according to these same claims, they even received $2 million from someone close to Nicolas Maduro, the current president. Now, if there are ties with Maduro, this is a big problem considering what's happening right now. So here's how it was described. This referral to the FBI is being made due to the risk that a foreign government would entail in interfering in the democratic process of Puerto Rico and the US through investments in artists or influencers. Coincidentally, we know that Bad Bunny has been very vocal about politics, especially with ICE and immigration. I mean, he skipped his whole US tour because of ICE, and now we know that his record label has ties to foreign government. So ask yourself, is this really all about music, or is there something deeper?
Have you heard of split brain research?
It's when they cut this film that separates the two hemispheres, right?
Exactly. It actually happened by accident the first time, but then they found that people have epileptic seizures.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's basically like feedback. So there's a signal that starts going in the brain and it gets amplified. And that's
like an infinite loop or something.
Yeah, infinite loop, right? And then so it gets louder and louder, and then the brain just shuts down and they have a seizure. So that's epilepsy. So they found that if they cut the two hemispheres of the brain, then it would dampen the feedback and that signal would stop and they wouldn't have seizures anymore. So they do that. Now, if you do that and you stick a piece of paper between somebody's eyes and you show them an apple and a banana on either side, and then you say, draw what you just saw. With their left hand, they'll draw an apple, and with their right hand, they'll draw a banana. Okay, so now what this means is crazy, right? So what this means is that two different parts of a person can believe two different things at the same time.
Creative people overthink everything. You're probably really creative with great ideas, but overthinking kills your momentum, or even worse, it stops you from starting. That's why Virgil said something every creative needs to hear.
Perfectionism doesn't advance anything, ironically. As a creative and as a designer, there's no wrong way to go about the future of your career. The only failure is not to try.
So it's okay to not have everything figured out. It's better to start and see where it takes you than to never start at all. That's how you explore the unknown.
I mean, what even really is perfect? I really truly believe in, fixing things as they go. Even starting a business, for example, you'll never hit it right out of the park right away. You're always fixing things as they go, and that's how progression is built.
Yeah, so using hemisync and binaural beats frequencies, you can actually sync up the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of your brain so they're operating on the same wavelength, which actually increases the level of capacity that you can think, because most people are not operating on the full capacity of their brain.
There's no law of physics which says that you cannot live forever. The second law of thermodynamics says that in a closed system, you eventually die. But notice I said closed. If it was open, if you opened the box and energy can come in from the outside, then in principle, you could live forever. Because what is aging? Aging is the buildup of air. For example, if you take a look at a car and you ask, where does the car age? The car ages in the engine. Where is the engine of a cell? The engine of a cell is the mitochondria. That's where you have, quote, moving parts in the buildup of air. So if we could then fix the air buildup in the mitochondria, you would then be able to reverse aging. And that's where quantum computers comes in the picture. With quantum computers, we'll be able to isolate the process which makes aging possible. Some animals live forever. Look at the Hydra. You try to destroy it and it regenerates itself. It lives forever. It's immortal.
Legal system is completely f***ed. 93% of all lawsuits happen in America. Almost all the lawyers in the world live in the United States. It's very predatory if you're an entrepreneur. I have 2 clients in my private client program. They sold a company cash to Apple for $1 billion a year ago. And they're in California, and I was like, be careful. They just got hit with their first 9-figure lawsuit from somebody saying they fell down the stairs at their mansion. No other country does that.
When you follow people with high IQs over 20, 30 years, you find a lot of marginal people, petty criminals, people on the margins of society. IQ tests do not strongly correlate with success in life. However, when you look at a criminal, you realize that safecrackers, even though they may have low IQs because they flunked grade school, they may understand the future of a bank robbery much better than the police. Exactly. They can outwit the police because they can dream up scenarios more realistically than the police can. So here's my, quote, IQ test, and that is to put people in strange environments and have them calculate realistic scenarios. The number of realistic scenarios you can compute for a given situation, being stranded on an island, or being stranded behind enemy lines, robbing a bank, that correlates to me much better with our level of consciousness than an IQ exam.
And that's a real thing. Just because you have a high IQ, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, really. It's about what you do with it.
Your imagination could literally create a living being.
In Tibetan mysticism, a tulpa is a thought form, an entity created purely through mental focus and visualization. Monks believe that with enough meditation and intent, a person could project a being so vividly that it could act independently. The concept was introduced to the West in the early 1900s when explorer Alexandra David Neal claimed to have created one herself, a monk-like figure that eventually developed its own will and had to be reabsorbed through intense ritual. But could modern minds actually manifest something real, or is it all psychological projection? The 20th century saw the idea evolve beyond mysticism. Psychologists began interpreting tulpas as manifestations of disassociation or imaginative companion phenomena. In online communities since the 2000s, tulpamancers describe creating companions through long-term visualization and dialogue, claiming these thought forms develop independent personalities. Some see it as spiritual practice, others call it a controlled hallucination. No evidence confirms physical manifestations, but many report vivid and sustained experiences indistinguishable from real interaction. I first learned about tulpas through the latest Twin Peaks season, Twin Peaks: The Return. That was my first dive into it, so I did a deep dive on tulpas when that came out, but this is some more context. Comment with your take on this. What do you think of tulpas?
It sounds pretty creepy and pretty unrealistic, you know, to create a character in your mind that can break that fourth wall and start to live and have its own life. Pretty wild.
People will do anything for views, and this guy's no exception. He films himself getting dangerously close to massive cargo ships like it's some kind of game. But here's what most people don't realize. Even slow-moving ships create powerful underwater suction. You can see this in action as this jet skier gets pulled toward one like a magnet. You can see the panic as he fights the current and barely escapes. If the ship were any faster, this would have ended differently.
This was the year that I think the AI got smarter than us. Like that's a big moment.
Yeah.
And life goes on, but something fundamental has changed. I don't know how sci-fi it's going to get. No one does. You know, are we living forever in computers? Do we just cure a bunch of disease? Do we like whatever? I will say, there's this new, not that new anymore. In the last few years, there's this show called Pantheon that explores some of these questions. And it is the best. I don't watch much TV, but I made an exception. And it is the best TV show I have seen in a very long time. So I think these questions are in the zeitgeist and sort of newly important and not theoretical. Certainly, I don't know how it's all going to go.
Away we go. So we're on day 6 of the government shutdown, and there's a few things that you may or may not know. For starters, let's follow the money, because they're saying investors are using Bitcoin as a safe haven asset during the shutdown, which is probably true because gold and Bitcoin both hit an all-time high, like today. Now, this usually happens when smart money starts moving around, when there's instability in the market, when it comes to war, a government shutdown, I don't know, maybe a crash coming about. And I've been telling you guys about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole. Don't miss out. Here's a little lesson learned. Don't be Germany, because they held 50,000 Bitcoin at the price of 54,000, costing them $3.5 billion in profit. So don't be Germany. And also, don't be one of these poor bastards still using Robinhood for crypto and stocks or any kind of financial transactions, because they're back at it again. Can anybody tell me why we had a repeat of 2021 where they halted transactions or had an outage where nobody couldn't do anything? But why is that? Well, that's because at the same time, the New York Stock Exchange approved the listing and registration for the warrants to purchase common stock for GameStop stock. Interesting. Now, what this means for stockholders is that these warrants for every 10 share allows them to purchase an additional GameStop share at a fixed price at $32, which means that Robinhood, if they had to fill these orders, everybody could have took a massive dump on them. So yeah, I'm not using Robinhood, never will.
Life is definitely full of patterns and sequences. Now, this definitely isn't the first time that this has happened. The government shuts down while gold and Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, go crazy, right? Pay attention out here.
They're celebrities that married their fans. So Steve Harvey met his wife at the front row of one of his comedy shows in 2007, and they ended up getting married after he approached her after the show. Taylor Lautner married a mega Twilight fan whose name also happens to be Taylor, making them now both Taylor Lautner. She was notably Team Edward. Katie Holmes was a big fan of Tom Cruise before they got married, and even had posters of him on his wall just a few years years prior. Billy Joe Armstrong married his wife after she came to a concert and approached him for a signed CD of their work, and Randy Orton actually married the mother of a fan that came to a meet and greet to get some merch signed. Liam Payne was briefly engaged to and dating fans who attended meet and greets when they were younger, and even Neville from Harry Potter married a Harry Potter event coordinator named Angela who he met during an event in 2016. And finally, Hailey Bieber was a mega fan of Justin Bieber throughout her entire life, before ultimately wooing him and getting married and having a kid with him earlier this year. Pretty cool, right?
He got sentenced 4 years in jail. What's your thoughts?
Got no thoughts on that going to jail. Why the fuck care about how much time that get? I ain't never met that motherfucker. I don't care how much time he get.
Hey, you can only appreciate that kind of honesty, though.
You ever wondered, how does an airplane engine actually work? The thing to remember is suck, squeeze, bang, blow. First, air outside the plane is sucked in by a fan. Most of it actually gets directed around the engine and helps push the plane forward. But some of it gets squeezed through rotating blades, where it's mixed with fuel and bang! It reaches nearly 2,000 degrees Celsius. For reference, lava in a volcano is about 1,200 degrees Celsius. So it releases this jet of super hot and fast-moving gas, which blows out the back, generating more thrust to help move the plane forward, spinning a turbine that powers the fan at the front. For optimistic science and tech stories, follow along.
This was the groundbreaking experiment that proved air has weight and exerts pressure on everything around us. Back in 1654, a German scientist sealed two metal hemispheres together, then sucked the air out to create a vacuum. No air inside means they should fall apart easily, right? Wrong. The outside air pressure was so strong, even 16 horses pulling in opposite directions couldn't break them apart. But the moment he let the air back in, they popped apart like nothing.
You want to learn something new today? There was a cargo ship called Felicity Ace in 2022 that sank in the Atlantic Ocean with nearly 4,000 luxury cars, from Porsches to Lamborghinis. That sucks. Elvis Presley's manager sold I Hate Elvis badges as a way to make money from people who weren't buying Elvis Presley's merchandise. It's honestly a pretty genius move. I mean, Elvis wasn't doing anything wrong to be disliked, right? I don't know. And to make money off of people who hate him too is like, it's kind of petty. I like that. Every red box in this picture is showing people taking a photo or video of LeBron James shooting this shot. The green box, any green box in this picture is a person that is not capturing the moment and just living it. And what do you know? That person is Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. Apparently cinematographers, when they're at a concert and it's like raining really bad, have these really fast spinning glass lenses that allow rain to not land on it because it's moving so fast, and apparently it's used on ships for them to see out into like the fog and stuff too. Humans are very creative.
When you die, if you get cremated, your family could put your ashes in an hourglass and you could still participate in family game night.
How about no?
We know that they can take remote control of your car and make you drive off a bridge. Any car? Any car that has a computer in it, which is every car, unless you're driving a 57 Chevy or something. We know that they can take any smart TV and turn the speaker into a microphone so that it broadcasts what's being said in the room, even while the TV is off. Another thing that they did was they infected computers domestically, which is illegal. But then in the code, they embedded lines of code written in either Farsi or Cyrillic so that they could point, say, no, it wasn't us. It was the Russians, the Iranians. They did it. Look, the code. They forgot to translate these lines of code. They're still in Russian and Farsi. No, it was us. I've been out of the CIA for 21 years now. That is a lifetime, technologically speaking. It's a different world today. God knows what they can do that we haven't found out yet.
Now, if he's considering that technology old, that alone impedes on every single piece of privacy that you thought that you had.
Study just proved that AI is now better at giving therapy than actual therapists, only when you don't know you're talking to it. Researchers gave people therapy advice for real-life problems. Some of the advice was written by licensed therapists, and some was written by ChatGPT. The results are a complete nightmare. The advice people rated as the most empathetic, the most helpful, and the most human was written by ChatGPT. But here's the most terrifying part. This only worked when people thought the AI was a human therapist. The study found a stark attribution bias. The moment people even suspected they were talking to an AI, they rated its advice as less helpful, even if it was the same exact advice they had just praised. It's a Turing test for the human heart, and we're failing.
The only reason why I actually believe that is because AI is just going to sit there and listen without any kind of bias and really give you some feedback that they've gathered all kinds of information on. So that actually is very interesting, and it might be useful.
Guys, we may have just witnessed history. Yesterday, 22-year-old inventor Julian Brown ran the first ever muscle car on plastiline. His 110-octane gasoline he converted from plastic waste. As the live stream from Atlanta showed, he turned on on the car to demonstrate there was no fuel inside. And sure enough, it didn't start. He then filled the car with a canister of plastiline, pressed the button, and the rest is history. Now, to be clear, Julian Brown didn't invent pyrolysis. Converting plastic to fuel is a well-established process that's been around for decades. But he did invent the world's first solar continuous microwave pyrolysis reactor, which fundamentally changes how expensive and renewable this process is. And he did all of this without the backing of large corporations, and he was able to build this in his own backyard with a box of scraps! Now, he says his reason for doing all of this is to send a message to the world that people are no longer going to wait for big corporations or big government to do what needs to be done.
Because this is our world. This is our Earth. And we care and we protect it.
In fact, in May, he even got his plastic diesel scientifically tested and it passed with flying colors. The lab even went as far to say that Julian's diesel had better emissions than regular diesel.
I thought it was surprisingly well distilled. I thought it was surprisingly clean as well for plastic. And it blew my mind that plastic could be redistilled into diesel.
He says his end goal is to get this in the world and where it needs to be.
Let's get it in the world. Let's get it implemented how it needs to be, because that's the whole point of why I started this. And so that's the strive and the move, without a doubt, to get this where it needs to be.
Now, this man needs to be protected at all costs. You know, I have a channel full of different people that have tried to invent things but didn't quite make it for one reason or another.
Plastiline! 2023 scat pack right here. It's on E. She's gonna try to start it to show we got no fuel in this thing.
Hey buddy, move back some, move back some. Move back. It ain't starting up.
Here we go. History in the making, baby.
Plastiline.
Okay. I think that's it.
All right, we think that's it.
All right.
All right, it's empty.
Hey, are you scared?
I am.
Yeah. Now, have some faith. You got it.
I got faith.
All right.
I'll start it.
Hit it.
Hit it.
I knew it was gonna work, but I didn't know it was gonna work that well, that easy, that smooth. You know, you saw that thing was on E, it would not start. We put the plastiline in there, it started, it sounded great, it did everything it was supposed to do. We knew, you know, doing this for 5 years, I always knew plastic was fuel, but to actually see it in application and do it live in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people, you know, you gotta sometimes have some faith, even beyond what you know and what you think you know. But I'm just so happy that everybody was able to make it out and experience this with me too.
Okay, see, it looks like he did it right. I see he has 2 security guards by his side, so it looks like he might just be one of the ones to make it. I actually really like to see good people win, man. That's human ingenuity at its finest.
Humanity, you gave me $30,000 and I gave you my heart. You gave me your faith when I disappeared, and I gave you my promise that I would never quit and never give up, and now we are here after 5 years of hard work. 8 months of back-breaking upgrades and labor. It is the last time to run the world's first solar, continuous, say it with me, microwave, pyrolysis, reactor, baby. Mark 4.5. We are here. And when I turn this machine on, it will be history. Not only because it is an invention and the first of its kind, but because this is sending a message to the world, letting the world know that we are done. It does not matter. We're not going to wait on some big corporation, some big government to do what needs to be done. If we need to do it ourselves, we would do it ourselves, because this is our world. This is our Earth, and we care and we protect it. and we protect and care for each other too. So, without further ado, desde mi corazón y mi alma, vamos! We got the vacuum pulled. It's time to turn on the magnetrons now. We are now operating at full power. At full power, absolute capacity. We are consuming 12,000 watts. It's happening. Look at that. It's happening. We all know what that means. Oh my goodness, take a look. There's the oil, everybody. Now is the moment that will make or break this machine. We're about 2 hours in. Now it's time to load in plastic while the machine is running. Now that we have this loaded with plastic, we'll close this valve and then close this valve, pull a vacuum on the thing. Vacuum is being pulled on the chamber. We are now opening this chamber. Oh, look at that. All right, we'll turn on the blades. Beautiful. That's literally exactly how I want it. Just like that. These blades spinning, plastic falling in while the machine is on, while the machine is hot, while we're still making fuel, baby. The world's first solar continuous microwave pyrolysis reactor. I fed in the plastic from up here too fast, clumped together. That's what happens. That's why we had to employ this really sophisticated auger blade system, because plastic, especially under these conditions, loves to just get staticky and clump together. Fortunately, I think I could fix this, but not while the machine is running.
Let's dive into the giants.
Giants are fun. And where do you want to start? The beginning?
Yeah.
Giants are in every culture's history. Every culture's got giants mentioned. Ancient Indian Vedas, Native Americans, island of Malta, East Asian. Every culture has giants. And the Bible, of course. Epic of Gilgamesh. So giants show up all through our culture. And whenever I see that, a lot of what I do is just pattern recognition. Like, I wasn't even really a flood myth guy until I started doing my show. And it's like, this flood story keeps showing up over and over, no matter what I'm talking about. The flood myth shows up, and it's always showing up at the same time as, like, the end of the Younger Dryas. Like, these things, it's just the same pattern over and over. Maybe it's a coincidence, but if one culture has a story about a flood, then they have a story. If two cultures have it, it could be a coincidence. But if you get 40 or 300, then maybe there's something to it. Maybe it really happened. So I'm pretty sure that flood happened. Now, as for giants is tricky because we don't have any hard evidence, but we have a lot of circumstantial evidence where the most recent would probably be late 19th century, early 20th, where you just had these discoveries all over America, over 1,000 of them.
I talked about those tunnels in New York the other day. I just keep thinking about all the tunnels that are all over the country and most big cities. A lot of people will tell you that our world is built on top of another world, and we're actually a civilization on top of a civilization. Y'all remember that video of that guy walking around in New York and he steps on a hole on the sidewalk and it falls in? There's so many of those videos that people post. Especially ones at night where cracks in the sidewalk that are literally illuminated because there's a room underneath it. I mean, don't get me wrong, most of these tunnels were built for practical reasons. Steam pipes, electrical conduits, subways, Prohibition-era deliveries, or Cold War fallout shelters. Obviously some are on public record, but obviously some are not on fucking public record. And obviously all of this is going to fuel speculation from human trafficking and secret detention sites, underground military networks, subterranean experiments where they snatch us to do experiments under the ground, or just watch Jordan Peele's Us and then our doppelgangers are underneath the ground. Whole populations of doppelgangers or mole people or lizard people. Y'all ever went down the Disney tunnel rabbit hole? I don't know, man. I could just fucking talk tunnels all day.
So Sam Altman of ChatGPT just got $1 billion of funding working on a project helping humans live to 150 years old. And here's the crazy part. Insurance companies have known this for decades. Look at the proof. Back in the 90s, insurance policies were built to age 100. Now, age 120. They didn't do this by accident. These are the biggest financial institutions on the planet. They run the economy. They don't guess. They know what's coming before the public does. And what they're betting on is that humans live a lot longer than they used to. So if you're still planning like you're gonna die by age 75, you might be planning for a future that doesn't exist anymore.
And I thought you'd never ask. Let's talk about bongos. It's a type of antelope, but nature forgot to remove the tiger ink cartridge when it printed, so now they all look like an animated henna tattoo. This walking toaster strudel is found one place on Earth, and it's in the jungles of Central Africa. So that colorway is actually camouflage in the dense undergrowth, with those random white stripes breaking up any outline and basically making them disappear into the bush like that one Simpsons meme. Basically, they stole this Klondike horse's whole flow. For a while, natives wouldn't hunt them because urban legend said that touching or eating a bongo would cause something like a seizure. But once they realized it was capped, it was basically open season on this Cinnabon serving face. That's why you've probably never seen a bongo in real life outside of a band room. The mountain bongo in particular basically has one foot in the gulag with only about 100 of them left seasoned across Kenya. Just be glad you got to see this one.
Way too many times YouTubers have almost recorded themselves passing away. Like just recently, IShowSpeed bungee jumped 1,000 feet off this building in Las Vegas, and his viewers noticed that right before he hit the ground, his harness actually snapped. If it would have happened any sooner, he would be flat. YouTuber Jen Smith was recording herself hanging out of a trolley in California when another one starts to come from behind her, and at the very last second, her boyfriend says, "Watch your head," and then she just laughs it off. Mr. Beast made a video of trying to spend 24 hours underwater, and this was what he tried to use to do it. And he only made it 11 hours because he was pumping oxygen into the tank the entire time, but wasn't removing the carbon dioxide, which really could have taken him out. YouTubers Tanner Fox, Shane Dawson, PewDiePie, Roman Atwood, Jack Doherty, and many more have all been involved in serious car accidents that they said they were lucky to be alive from. Logan Paul once went skydiving back in 2017 and his parachute malfunctioned and wouldn't open up, so he actually started falling, but he was lucky that his backup parachute actually worked. While when FPS Russia was in the process of doing this to a truck, the door flew less than a foot away from him and could have ended up making this a very different video.
We have figured out how to build an entire quantum computer on a chip. When I talk about a chip, this is an example of our chip.
Here today in Westchester at the headquarters of Seek, the only company in the world building quantum computers on chips. John Levy, CEO and co-founder, is going to show us around. John, I'm allowed one dumb question per interview. What is quantum computing?
First off, let's contrast it with the computing that we know, classical computing. Classical computing is based on zeros and ones, everything being binary or digital. In quantum computing, it's much more based on principles of nature. Nature is made up of subatomic particles, atoms, molecules, etc. Imagine for a moment that you could make an artificial atom and use that as your form of computation.
If you had to sum it up in just one line, what is the work here at Seek?
This is a quantum computer controlling 5 qubits. This is the rack of room temperature electronics you need to control those qubits. Imagine that was 1,000,000 qubits you were trying to control. Think about all the equipment you would need, all the energy, and we put that all down onto a chip.
What does that kind of efficiency unlock for these chips and for the companies that apply them?
Well, I mean, we know what's happening with data centers today with AI, for instance, where we need nuclear power stations to run AI data centers. And because of that, we can imagine that scaled quantum data centers in the future are going to have a similar energy profile. Our technology would enable you to build a scaled quantum data center that we could power with tens of kilowatts, something you could do in a small office building.
Let's check out the fabrication lab.
We have a whole set of tools that's what we refer to these as, that enable us to make the kind of chips that we showed you.
We start off with a blank silicon wafer, and we run it through, say, an 8 to 10 level process, and when we're all said and done, this would be a finished product. Each level consists of depositing a material, whether it be a metal or an insulator, then taking that blanket film, bringing it back to what we call photolithography area, and you're taking this image from this mask and you're putting this image onto that wafer. Then the third step of the process would bring it back over to this area where we remove the material and you're left with this image on your wafer, a working circuit.
This is a one-stop shop. Everything is happening under this one roof.
Yeah, and it's a huge advantage to be able to do that because it means that we can make everything we do happen a lot faster. And given the fact that we're creating these really innovative digital chips,
for quantum computers, we want to compress our design cycles as short a time as possible.
Now, if they're able to make these quantum computing chips that small and that fast, and maybe that means it'll be rolled out commercially, which is great because then we'll all be able to be enriched by the information that these quantum chips can provide. So that's very cool.
Meet Victoria Beckham. I guess there's a show coming out about her. So we're just going to tell you what her face tells us. So she is a classic fire face. Fire faces are denoted by a very narrow chin. And as you can see by this picture, chin comes down very narrow. This is a sign of someone who's very sensitive. Just as fire burns fast, these people are quick. Their minds are quick, but they're also extremely sensitive, tend to be oversensitive. The next thing we like to look at is the right and left eye. The right eye is what we show to the world. It's our public persona, and it's our mother's influence. The left is our true inner private self, and it's our father's influence. If we cover up that left eye and just look at the right eye, she's intense. Good or bad? Depends. It can be a good situation, may not be in all situations. Now, when we cover up the opposite eye, we cover up that right eye and just look at the left eye, there's sadness there. Now, again, does that sadness have to do with a male? My guess is yes. There's no way to know for sure. I don't know this person at all. I think she's married to somebody very famous. I'm not up on a lot of these folks, so I apologize to Victoria for not knowing much about her. But again, there's some sadness there. Facial features tell us a lot. Her forehead is very wide and very large. This means she kind of lives in her head. She enjoys the process of thinking. She's a thought leader. She's a list maker. Those of us that have these large foreheads, we never finish our list. We're all about the journey, never about the destination. Hairline is also wide. So this is someone that has some rebellious tendencies. Chances are she was a little rebellious as a teenager. I'm sure she enjoyed her teen years. I'm not sure her parents did. For sure, she rebels against conformity. Status quo is not something Victoria is even remotely interested in. Next, we have her eyebrows. And again, in a clinical setting, or if I'm teaching in front of a crowd, I would always point out the thing that jumps out at me quickest, and that is her eyebrows. One, they're unequal heights. So this indicates she can be moody, she can be overly sensitive. Again, she's a fire face, she's going to be sensitive. But she may have a bit of a tempestuous relationship with a parent or a step-parent. And then notice that right eyebrow comes screaming down like this. This is a sign of being very critical. Now, it's on the right side. Did she have a critical mother? Possibly, but you'll see this a lot with people in the public eye. They're going to be very critical of themselves. You see it with athletes all the time because they're hypercritical of their performances and that type of thing. So probably a tad critical of herself when I look at that eyebrow. Her nose, mostly look at the tip of her nose. She has this roundness to the tip of her nose. We refer to this as a gourmand nose. She's a quality over quantity individual. She'd rather have a very nice piece of jewelry than a bunch of crap she doesn't care about. Again, it's good taste, probably is a very good cook, or at least enjoys the finer things, finer foods in life. Cheeks are flat. Cheeks are about confidence. Does that mean she's not confident? Not necessarily. When we see flat cheeks, they tend to resist authority. Can be a little moody, again, like to avoid conflict. You'll see this commonly with people that are sensitive. They don't like conflict at all. Cheekbones, very high. This is a sign of high standards. Anything high in the body, just think high standards. And she has extremely high standards. And again, probably very critical of herself and attempts to maintain those standards. Chin, narrow chin. That's what denotes the fire face. So these people are sensitive. They tend to be moody. They need to be around people, and yet they're very indecisive. It's a weird anachronistic situation. And then her jaw is narrow. Again, that's what makes them the fire face. So these people can be swayed by emotions, especially of other people. They can be kind of pushed a little bit because of their sensitivity. So that's Miss Victoria Beckham. I hope you enjoyed her.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting one, man. Every single time I'm learning something new. I'm a professional body language reader, and now the more I watch him, I'm like, okay, so now there's more to read about the face. Very interesting. Well, you guys, hey, that's another one in the books, man. I appreciate you guys for stopping by yet again and watching another one with me. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button for me. Smash that subscribe button and join the iTrack fam if you haven't already. Smash the hype button, and I will definitely catch you on the next one.